Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, July 7, 2025, we're plunging into the week's most critical AI and IT developments. It truly feels like the world of technology is accelerating at an incredible pace, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's almost dizzying sometimes.
Keeping up can be a challenge, but that's precisely why we're here.
Exactly. What we're witnessing, in fact, is an era of, let's call it dynamic tension. You've got this rapid technological acceleration clashing with societal disruption, and it's all happening against this backdrop of a global regulatory battle.
Dynamic tension, I like that.
Yeah, and staying informed isn't just, a good idea anymore. It's pretty much a necessity for understanding your world. We've kind of identified three major dynamics shaping this new landscape.
Okay, what are they?
First, there's this profound tech convergence, especially with advanced general AI, AGI, and embodied AI, robots, basically. Then you have the great decoupling, which is economic growth separating from job growth.
We're definitely seeing headlines about that.
Right. And third, this sort of burgeoning regulatory Cold War between different global approaches, particularly the US and EU. So let's unpack maybe 10 of the most significant stories defining this moment for you.
That sets the stage perfectly. Let's start with item number one, a major political turning point in U.S. AI regulation. The headline we're using. The verdict has fallen. The AI regulation moratorium in the United States is dead. The battle of the states begins. Sounds dramatic.
It really is a huge development. On July 1st, the U.S. Senate voted, get this, 99-1.
Wow, 99-1. That's almost unheard of.
Exactly. They definitively rejected a federal moratorium on AI regulation.
Mm.
So what this means effectively is we're now entering an era where individual states think California, New York, Illinois are essentially becoming these laboratories of regulation.
So everyone makes their own rules.
Pretty much. Each state crafting its own AI laws. The immediate impact for you, especially if you run a business or work in tech, is a really fragmented regulatory landscape across the U.S. It could get complicated fast.
You could see a California effect, maybe, where their strict rules become the default.
That's definitely a possibility. But here's where it gets really interesting on a global scale.
Yeah.
This vote also decisively shifts global regulatory leadership in AI.
How so?
It firmly places the European Union, with its Unified AI Act, kind of in the driver's seat. They become the world's primary standard setter for AI governance, while the U.S. figures things out state by state.
Okay, so the U.S. regulatory scene is fragmenting. Let's shift from politics to the tech itself. Item two. OpenAI unveils GPT-5. The convergence of reason and multimodality will redefine the industry. The next generation is here.
It certainly looks like it. GPT-5 is the long-awaited successor, and it feels like a genuine game changer. It aims to unify really advanced reasoning capabilities with native multimodal capabilities.
What does native multimodal actually mean in practice?
It means the AI can truly understand and generate content across different forms, text, real-time audio, high-fidelity video seamlessly, not just handling one type at a time like older models. Think everything to everything.
Everything to everything. Okay.
Yeah, and OpenAI is targeting a massive reduction, over 50% in hallucinations. When the AI makes stuff up.
That's always been a major hurdle.
A huge one. So for you, this simplifies the developer ecosystem quite a bit. It sets a new industry standard for what AI can do and the potential impact on jobs. Well, some estimates suggest it could automate something like 30% of knowledge work by the end of 2025.
30%. That's staggering. And I heard a rumor they might even launch an open source model, too.
That's the rumor, yeah. Which would be another massive shift. But sticking with breakthroughs, let's move from digital brains to, well, medicine. Item 3, revolution in medicine. Isomorphic Labs, Google, on the brink of clinical trials for AI-designed drugs.
AI designing drugs. This sounds like science fiction becoming reality.
It really does. Isomorphic Labs, which is a subsidiary of Google DeepMind, has said they are very close to launching human clinical trials for drugs actually designed by artificial intelligence.
How does that even work?
Well, AI can analyze biological data and molecular structures at a scale and speed humans just can't match. It can predict how potential drug molecules might interact with targets in the body, massively speeding up the discovery phase.
Which is notoriously slow and expensive, right?
Incredibly slow and expensive. We're talking potential cost reductions of maybe 25–50% and significantly increasing the success rates of drugs making it through trials. This really solidifies AI's role not just as an analytical tool, but as a a creative scientific partner.
A creative partner. Interesting. And for Google, this diversifies their strategy beyond just ads and search, I imagine.
Absolutely. It's a big strategic move into biotech and healthcare. But, while AI is creating potential new jobs in areas like drug discovery, it's also leading to displacement elsewhere. Which brings us to item 4.
Right, the flip side. The great AI layoff wave. Microsoft leads. Thousands of tech jobs disappear due to automation. A stark reality check.
Yeah, this one hits hard. Microsoft recently confirmed cutting 9,000 jobs. That's about 4% of their global staff. And they directly linked it to an $80 billion investment in AI infrastructure.
So they're investing huge sums in AI, but shedding workers at the same time.
Precisely. And it's not just Microsoft. You're seeing similar patterns, maybe less explicitly stated sometimes, across Intel, Amazon, Google. It's part of a wider trend. This really signifies the great decoupling we mentioned earlier.
Company growth separating from job growth.
Exactly. Company profits and investments are soaring, driven by AI efficiency, but the traditional link to job creation is weakening, or even breaking. We're seeing record unemployment for young university graduates, 6.6%.
6.6%. That's concerning. Is this also driving other trends like unionization talk?
Definitely. There's a noticeable uptick in interest in unionization within the tech sector. Employees are looking for ways to gain leverage and navigate these pretty massive shifts driven by automation.
Okay, so while some jobs are cut, entirely new forms of AI are quite literally emerging. Let's talk about item 5. AI takes shape. Nvidia and Hexagon unveil AEON, the humanoid robot that redefines industry.
This is where AI gets physical. Nvidia, working with Hexagon, unveiled AEON. It's an industrial humanoid robot.
Humanoid, like walking around a factory.
Yep, powered by Nvidia's whole ecosystem, Jetson chips for the AI at the edge, Omniverse for creating simulated training environments, Isaac Sim for the robotics development itself. They used a simulation-first approach.
Meaning it learned in a virtual world first.
Exactly. It mastered complex tasks in simulation before they even built the physical robot, or at least before deploying it widely. It's much faster and safer to train that way. For you, this represents the next wave of industrial automation.
Beyond the robotic arms we already see.
Way beyond. AEON is designed to handle complex, maybe even delicate physical tasks, potentially 24/7. It's aimed squarely at redefining factory work and manufacturing. And for Nvidia, it extends their dominance from chips and software into the actual physical world of robotics.
Nvidia seems to be everywhere. Okay, from physical tasks to dot coding. Can AI actually code better than humans now? Item 6. AI codes better than humans. Anthropic unveils Claude 4, the undisputed champion of software development. That's a bold claim.
It is a bold claim, but Anthropic's latest models, Claude 4 specifically Opus and Sonnet, are putting up some seriously impressive numbers. They're setting new records on really challenging coding benchmarks like SWE Bench. We're talking scores in the low 70% range, which is remarkable.
Better than many human programmers on those specific tests.
On those specific difficult benchmarks, yes. And it's not just benchmarks. They excel in complex, long-duration agent tasks. Partners like Rakuten, the e-commerce giant, validated Claude's ability to refactor code, basically reorganize and improve it for 7 hours straight without significant error.
7 hours straight, that's...
Yeah. The impact. It means AI can potentially automate significant chunks of the software development lifecycle. Think reducing code review time by, say, 40%. AI is becoming a seriously reliable co-pilot for developers, maybe even taking the lead on certain tasks. It also highlights a strategic specialization. Anthropic seems to be carving out a niche in reliable, complex task execution.
So the AI coding assistants are getting seriously powerful, but it's not all about these massive proprietary models like GPT-5 and Claude 4, right? Let's open source. Item 7, the open source wave surges. Meta's Llama 4 democratizes cutting-edge AI and redefines competition.
Right, the open source side is absolutely exploding. Meta's latest release, Llama 4, which comes in different sizes like Scout and Maverick and uses a sophisticated mixture of experts' architecture, is incredibly powerful, but also surprisingly accessible.
Accessible how?
You can apparently run some versions effectively on just a single high-end GPU, like an Nvidia H100. That's a huge deal compared to the massive server farms needed for the biggest closed models. And the adoption is just phenomenal, over 350 million downloads already. The ecosystem around Llama is booming.
So what's the impact of this open source surge?
It democratizes innovation massively. Smaller companies, researchers, even individuals can now access and build upon state-of-the-art AI. This puts intense pressure on the closed models like GPT-5. Remember that OpenAI rumor about open sourcing? That's probably why. It's redefining the whole competitive landscape. It's becoming a battle for ecosystem control, not just model performance.
Fascinating dynamic between open and closed. While Meta pushes open source, another tech giant, Intel, seems to be changing its strategy in the AI chip market. Item 8. Intel changes course, abandoning discrete AI chips for the integrated Jaguar Shores solution. A big pivot.
A huge pivot, and a high-stakes one for Intel. They're basically abandoning their standalone, discrete AI accelerator chip line, think Falcon Shores, Gaudi 3, the things meant to compete directly chip-to-chip with NVIDIA's GPUs.
So what are they doing instead?
They're focusing entirely on something called Jaguar Shores, expected in 2026. This isn't just a chip. It's a rack-scale integrated solution. Think a whole pre-configured system combining CPUs, AI accelerators, next-gen memory, networking, all bundled together.
A turnkey AI system for enterprises.
Exactly. It's kind of an implicit admission that maybe they can't beat NVIDIA's CDA software ecosystem head-on at the chip level right now. So their new strategy is to provide complete, ready-to-go AI infrastructure platforms rather than just components. It's a bold move, but there's significant execution risk they need to deliver.
A big bet for Intel indeed. Okay, shifting from silicon hardware to quantum. Europe is making a strategic play here. Item 9. Europe aims for quantum sovereignty. Launch of the Quantum Act to counter the United States and China.
Yes, Europe is getting serious about quantum computing. The EU unveiled its new quantum strategy just recently on July 2nd. It outlines 5 main pillars. Key parts include deploying 6 pilot lines for producing quantum chips within Europe and planning for a formal Quantum Act legislation in 2026.
And they're backing this with funding?
Oh, yes. Over 11 billion euros in public funds are earmarked for this. The explicit goal is to transform Europe's existing scientific excellence in quantum research into actual industrial leadership by 2030.
Why the big push now?
It's about strategic autonomy. Quantum computing has massive implications for cybersecurity, materials science, defense, finance, basically everything. Europe wants to ensure it isn't reliant on the US or China for this critical future technology. It's a direct response to huge investments being made by those two countries. They want a seat at the quantum table.
A quantum race is definitely heating up.
Okay.
Finally, let's bring it back to a battle we've seen before, impacting the creative world. Item 10. Hollywood under tension. Unions face the revolution of the generative AI video revolution.
Yeah, this tension isn't going away. With AI video generation tools like OpenAI Sora and Google's VO achieving really stunning levels of realism, well, the Hollywood unions, the WGA writers, SAG-AFTRA actors, remain extremely vigilant.
Building on their strike agreements from 2023.
Exactly. Those strikes secured some initial guardrails around AI, but the technology is advancing so fast, the direct threats are obvious. Generating digital doubles of actors without consent or fair compensation, potentially replacing certain technical roles in visual effects or even cinematography.
And the copyright issues are still messy.
Very messy. Currently, purely AI-generated content generally lacks human authorship, which means it often can't be copyrighted under existing U.S. law. That creates all sorts of problems. The unions are sticking to their guns, demanding explicit consent and fair pay for any use of a performer's image, voice, or likeness by AI, and clarity on copyright for AI-assisted work. It's an ongoing negotiation, really.
So 10 stories painting a picture of massive change. Regulation shifting, AI getting smarter and more embodied, jobs transforming, hardware strategies evolving, new frontiers like quantum opening up, and ongoing battles over creative rights. What does this all mean when you connect the dots?
If we tie this all together, these 10 stories really do reveal the key battlefields of tomorrow, or maybe even today. You see the regulatory front splitting, particularly between the U.S. approach, which is becoming fragmented, and the EU's push for unified standards.
And the industrial front.
That's rapidly embracing not just smarter AI agents, but also embodied AI robots like AEON, taking on physical tasks. Automation is accelerating.
And socially.
We're clearly grappling with the consequences of that great decoupling.
Yeah.
How do we manage a world where corporate growth doesn't automatically translate into broad-based employment growth? It raises fundamental questions for society.
It certainly feels like the pace is just dizzying, and it is easy to feel overwhelmed by all this.
That's very true. It's a lot to take in.
But here's where it gets really interesting for you, the listener, thinking about all this. The future isn't actually set in stone. It's not a foregone conclusion.
No, not at all.
These events we've discussed prove that political decisions, corporate choices, union actions, public engagement, they all actively shape the path AI takes. Your awareness, your voice, it matters.
Absolutely. Staying curious, staying critical, and staying engaged is key. This era of, as we called it, dynamic tension is also potentially an era of unprecedented opportunity.
Opportunity for those who choose to be informed actors, maybe, rather than just spectators watching it all unfold.
Precisely. It's about understanding these forces so you can navigate them, maybe even influence them. What questions does this raise for your industry, your career, your future? That's something to really chew on.
Definitely something to think about. We'll leave it there for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.